with us today Luke Kayyem, who's a high-performance intensive coach. And Luke, it's so great to have you here
Good to see you, my man.
at the
Good to
Center
see
for
you.
Positive Media. We love having you in studio. I wanted to invite Luke into the studio to talk about these intensives that you're running and what you intend to do here. You're trauma-focused, and what you do is you kind of break people down physically in order to allow them to open up emotionally. And I know I've interviewed you before, and you've suffered quite a few traumas in your life, and that's how it informs your work.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. Most men, myself included, have not unpacked their childhood pain that they dealt with, whether it was from the way that they were raised or something that they faced or something that happened to them that they had no choice about. And so now us men are adults and we have our own kids. And so really, Fathers of the Future became to be because I was an adult who had not unpacked anything that I had been dealing with most of my life. And I've been on the show before to talk about losing my mom and the way and the fashion that affected me. Well, it took me down a negative slope, and because of that, most of the choices, most of my habits, most of my disciplines were very weak. And so I had to learn how to let go of a lot of what I was carrying. And through that practice, through that work, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, I've been able to create a program called The Crucible. And so it's an intensive men's training. It's 24 hours in time. It really takes somebody down to their weakest point. And we challenge them physically. We beat them up physically just a little bit for them to be able to even tap into their emotional side, which has been dormant or dark since whatever they faced. And not everybody has to be broken to have a breakthrough, but it is the majority of men that I work with. If we go deeper and deeper and deeper, there's something that happened to them.
We carry that trauma throughout life and we make poor life choices. I do it via shamanism, so I do deep breath work, gets me past the frontal lobe to heal that inner child. How does this work?
So we do everything from, I'm a civilian, and so I tell that to everybody. I've done a lot of work with our military community, getting them prepared and prepped to go to battle, to even join, and be a little further ahead than most. But the physical part of how we break them down is intentional. It's so that they can realize that their body either is or is not a machine. And so we start there at that place. For most men, their bodies will give up. They haven't been training to the top of their capability. Once we begin that process, we get into some ice, some cold. And meanwhile, these men are blindfolded intentionally, so that they're not in charge. Your eyes tell certain stories that your ears and your body cannot tell. And so we immediately close their eyes off so that they have to be forced to become more in tune with other senses that they're not used to using. From that process, there's a lot of metaphors, including climbing a mountain. And so they climb a mountain carrying a rock, and that rock represents the weight that they've carried most of their life. And so we build up and we break down, and we build up and we break down. We do some deep breath work. We do some circle of life breathing. We do some Wim Hof. We visit some breath shamans that are local. There's lots of different service providers from my experience being in the high-performance CrossFit coaching world that I bring in to teach some of this stuff, as well as MMA and combat, being prepared, being able to handle the situation that most people wouldn't know how to get a hold of in order to not be the villain or the victim. And so we teach these men how to become heroes in their own life story through this challenging day. And when I say challenging day, the greatest way to explain it is it's like Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future. We're showing them this circle of life and in real time while they're in it, so that when they go back home, just 24 hours later, they're different. They've transformed, they've done something, they've accomplished something that's not only hard and challenging and painful, but meaningful.
What has it been like to watch people have these type of breakthroughs and to unpack this trauma? Much of it people have held on to since very young in life. So what has that been like for you?
So my other title is corporate leadership coach, keynote coach, but it does not give me even close to the same ROI on my time and my energy, even to the point where coaches of mine have said, are you sure you want to be staying up all night long, out at the lake, putting people in the ocean, doing this type of work when you could be focused on this other area of your business? And I come back and say yes every time.
I'm trying to understand, you're trying to break them down to make them more vulnerable and share their feelings and not be so walled up and closed off?
So That's not my intention.
Okay.
The intention is to give men an experience of transformation by doing these obstacles and these challenges. What happens from that is very hard to pinpoint and explain and describe. Most men, when they get in that place, are automatically feeling safe and free to be able to share. And so when we ask, we do a build-up. There's a week of education of getting to know who these men are that are coming. What is the problem? What is the pit? Where have you faced your greatest challenge? What is the trauma that you're holding on to? And like I said, some guys will come in with a corporate background who have a pretty fierce wall up. But once we break that wall down from the physical domain and we begin to tap into the emotional and the mental, then there is a space where things just naturally happen. And so I don't want to advertise or market that we do a specific thing. We challenge men to rise. And from that, they become greater fathers, greater leaders, greater teachers, greater humans. They stop carrying the weight that they've been carrying the majority of their life.
But in the way that you train, it is actively asking people to be more vulnerable.
Absolutely.
However they translate that after is sort of up to them. And you had to do that in your own life. After your trauma, you and I have talked many times about this. I mean, you kind of had to get right with yourself. And part of that was mental toughness, and part of it was vulnerability for you.
Yeah, I'm cautious with the word mental toughness for people who are dealing with mental health. Because I've been told I can be a little too intense at times in some of my trainings and practices.
I've trained with you and I can vouch for that. So. Yeah.
That's how I heal. I heal by expressing myself as naturally as I can. And at times there are things that are very unorganic and unnatural in the intensity of how we get people to move. When you take someone from a push-up position to an ice bath to face-to-face with a coach or a trainer, to ask them the question of who they are and why they're here, and not, I'm in Scottsdale at the park and it's 5 in the morning, but why are we truly here? What is your purpose? I can't guarantee that they leave that experience knowing their purpose, but I can guarantee they've looked at it much differently than they ever have before. And as you know, a purpose-driven life is a meaningful one, and it gives us more reason to get up in the morning and keep striving.
You're speaking our language, Luke. Where can people find out more?
So LukeKayyem.com is the website. The Fathers of the Future is a podcast that I have where I interview men on their experience and what they've gone through in life and how they've overcome things. And you can find me on all social channels as well.